and stuff. My name's Jason Wells. I work right here in Effingham for IDOT. I am the traffic control supervisor for the district. I go to all 16 counties in our district. I go from all the way north of Decatur, all the way down to Grayville, Mulberry Grove to Indiana. That's the 16 counties I go to. If you see a white truck that pulls up with the strobes going on, yep. Like I said, I go to all 16 counties in the district. If you see a white truck pull up with your job site with the strobes going off, that's usually probably me coming to tell you guys are missing your signs or things like that. I'm not out there to get you. I'm just to let you guys know. Not only is it a safety concern, it's a more of a liability concern. In my class here, this presentation here, I'm going to show you guys, I'll go in a little more about that liability as soon as it will load. There we go. Here's kind of outlining the stuff what I'm going to go over today. I got some introductions, some resource materials. Has anybody even heard of the MUTCD manual? It is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's put out by the feds, and I'm going to go to why that's really important. We're going to go over the work zones. I'm going to go over some human factors, what we see out there, people driving on our roadways. We're going to go over the measures to improve our safety and some general guidelines. Temporary concrete barrier. There is a myth out there that temporary concrete barrier is your best defense between you and the motorist. We'll show you why that's not necessarily a good idea either. And beware, I've got some warnings and stuff for you too. The short version is have a plan. When you guys get a permit from the state, you need to have that permit on hand because in that permit it has the standards and signs and stuff that you need for all your stuff. That is your plan for traffic control. Traffic control is needed for all these reasons. It's not just for utilities, it's not for contractors. It's anything you're trying to move traffic through or around something. Like I said, that MUTCD, that's the list of highway standards and stuff that everybody in the nation has to follow. We have our flagging standards. Do you guys get certified in flagging as flaggers? Your traffic control plans, again, that's in your permit. And actually your company policies, whatever safety policies that your company has, that's also something that needs to be out on the roadway. That MUTCD, why is it important? It's the law. Each state adopts it as their own state laws. These are the minimum requirements. There's the Illinois law. If you ever want to can't sleep at night, read that thing. It'll put you to sleep right away. If you ever want a copy of it, there's a link to it. One of the things is you have to use the minimum requirements that's set by the feds. So you can do more, you just can't do less. So if it calls for 3 sets of signs on your 2-lane roadways, the RCA, the 1-lane head and flagger signs, doesn't mean you only have 2, you can get by with a 2. There are definitions in the MUTCD also. There are different engineering standards. If it's a standard, it's a shall condition. You should use that, or shall use that, for every instance unless you have a unique situation where engineering judgment has ruled where that's not needed. A guidance is a should. Again, you can use it, but if you have another reason you can't. An option is may, and usually in the MUTCD it gives supporting documentation why that thing is a should or a shall condition. We want to maintain our safety, not only for you, for the motorist. We also need to give a good public relations to our company too. We all have our names on the backs of our vest, our company's name usually on the side of the truck. The feds are starting here in the last, I would say in the last 5 years or so, they're starting to put major emphasis on our sidewalks. Wouldn't think it's a big deal, especially in our rural applications like here in Effingham or something like that. I have some places where down in southern Illinois, I think they actually fold up the sidewalks at night. But it's becoming a big deal. So putting a porta potty on the sidewalk isn't necessarily a good idea, especially for the blinding things. People with handicaps, we have people here in Effingham, if the slope on the sidewalk is not at the right degree, they will call the feds and they will come out there. We've had this year, last year, I think there's 12 locations of new sidewalk they just poured here in Effingham. They had to rip up and replace just because the slope was at 2% instead of 1%. Another thing I see on the construction site, they put porta potties and stuff out there for the workers. They usually call them the sanitation service to come in there and move it. and the contractor gets in a hurry and they go in, swap lanes, and leave that porta potty out there. The funny thing is the more times than not, I still see people using it. When anything no longer exists, we need to remove the signs. The main thing with the feds and stuff is for your flagging signs. If you're going to be gone for more than an hour one location, we need to drop the flagger sign. If you're there, if you come back and you go for a lunch for about a half hour, you don't need to touch the signs. Leave the signs up, it's fine. But we need to cover up or remove anything that doesn't no longer apply. Okay? The black canvas bags that we're putting on there, the trash bags, is not necessarily a good cover, especially for long-term projects, because that plastic will fade, and at nighttime you'll be able to see right through it. Duct tape's good for a lot of things. I do not recommend it to cover your signs. Also, the one on the right there is a better instance of covering up an existing sign. However, the bottom sign is still a regulatory enforceable sign. So if that sign is not covered, it's still the legal speed limit. As a way out, if you ever get a speeding ticket in a work zone and that sign's not covered, they cannot give you the double fine. Just a little tip if you get a ticket. Some of my normal rule applications where I see on the signs like this, these signs need to be a foot above the roadway. I'm not saying that this is a more secure location and a better spot for your sign to keep it further away from the traffic, but it still needs to be above the roadway. That location is fine as long as you can raise it. Here's a better instance of covering up the speed limit sign. Still not the best, because still a lot of the scene is still visible, especially at nighttime. When the lights hit that, it'll shine back, and you'll still see that white. It'll be a distraction. Speeding in work zones. Okay, most of our work zones in the state of Illinois are approximately 2 foot long. We do have some longer ones, like out here in between Altamont and Effingham. We got about 10 miles closed. But most times not, when we close the lane, it's 2 miles. So doing 70 miles an hour in 2 miles is going to take you 1.7 minutes. If you have to do 45 during that whole 2 miles, it's only going to take you 2.6 minutes. So, question to you is, are you willing to risk a $250 fine for 1 minute of your time? Too far away, our battery's dead. Locked up on me. Nope, hold on. You say the volume works in this thing? Let's see. Nope. Give me a second, guys. Sorry about this. I'll just go ahead and play the video. Pick up the volume here in a minute. If anybody seen the photo van? The photo vans we have here in the state? This is an example of our photo van. This is over in St. Clair County, which is over by East St. Louis area. This is where they take your picture and they send you the ticket in the mail. Okay. Every state trooper I talk to, when they issue work zone speed limit tickets, they do not start at $250 that the sign says. They start for the minimum is $500. Because the only word they pay attention to that whole sign is that bottom word, which says minimum. Okay? This is an instance where they were set up over in I-64 in East St. Clair County. They were averaging like 50 tickets an hour at $500 a pop. There's some cool features in things too that also will give pagers to the workers. So we'll set a speed limit on the van, say like 65 mile an hour, if we got it set at 45. If someone goes through the zone greater than 65 mile an hour, every worker that's got one of those pagers, it will go off to let them know someone's coming fast through their work zones. I mean, the goal, cops aren't really out there to give you tickets. The goal is to slow people down. the speed is a determining factor. Okay, here's I'm sure everyone's seen all these signs on the interstate stuff before too. The $10,000 fine, January 1st, that fine went up to $25,000. So they're getting in people's pockets. I see a lot of these work zone fines and stuff come across my desk, and I see numerous upon numerous of the fines being implemented. The 14 years in jail, the highest jail sentence I've seen is 7 years around here locally. Basically, you're gonna have to show intent that you went out there and you intended to hurt somebody and before you get that jail sentence. It is a mandatory court appearance. If you get a work zone speed limit sign, you will be going to court and answering it in front of a judge. Property damage. You hit the contractor's truck, you knocked over some drums, 90 days to 1 year suspension of your license. You hurt somebody, 180 days to 2 year suspension. And if there's a death, it's a minimum 2 year suspension of your license, which is kind of a big deal for people like me that need my license to drive. Work zones, they're just unsafe just because of the nature of the work. If you're on foot on the right of way, you're at risk. Construction projects are typically moving. You guys are typically on a moving operation on a shoulder. And accidents have been increasing from year to year, and I've got those numbers coming up. This is on US 51 south of Decatur. This is at 65 miles an hour. Wouldn't take very long for an errant vehicle to continue going straight right there and wipe out 8 people. These are the accidents that's happened here in Illinois last few years. 2016, we had just under 4,800 crashes just in work zones. 45 people died in the work zones. Last year, 2019, we had 6,900 people, or 6,900 crashes, 33 people killed. They had 33 people die and 37 accidents. You would think that would be the opposite number. You would have 33 accidents and 37 deaths. But just like out here, we've had 12 people on the I-70 project that has died on that job. And it's usually the people slowing down and the person behind them going too fast, slamming into it. So we had 2 or 3 crashes on this last one where it was a FedEx truck slowing down because the semi had a flat tire. It was doing 30 miles an hour on I-70. He was slowing down, the FedEx truck slowed down, a small car behind him went to slow down too. The next semi behind him didn't. When they got there to identify the car, they could not identify the make and model of the car because that semi slammed into him so hard. Who gets hurt though? 85% of the time, it's the motorists getting hurt. It's not us out there working. And here's the Illinois numbers. In 2003 was the big change. We had 44 people die in Illinois roadways in 2003, and that's when we changed everything here in Illinois. Before 2003 on our interstates, everything was 1 mile or less on our signage for a lane closure. In 2003 is when we started putting everything 3 to 5 miles out. As you can see, it's gone down over the years. In 2015, it spiked up to 46. That number stood up to me at first time when I saw it because in 2015 is when we changed the speed limit on the interstate from 65 to 70 miles an hour. However, our work zones have not changed. It's still 45 and 55 that we display on our work zones. So it's not a direct correlation, but I'm sure it plays a big factor in it. So those top numbers is the motorists driving through our work zones. That bottom number is us workers. The goal is 0. In 2015, we did have 0 workers. But not only do we want the goal there at the bottom for the workers being 0, but we want the top ones also. What causes accidents? Number 1 is speed. I would love every work zone in the state of Illinois to be 20 miles an hour. I really would. But when I slow people down that slow, especially on interstate, it don't take very long for traffic to back up. We're taking, Interstate 70 out there has 25,000 ADT, the average daily traffic, vehicles driving through, it jumps up to like 45,000 when you get on the 5770 project. Where over 50% of those are trucks. So you're taking that volume of traffic that are 25,000 and you're restricting it down to one lane. So you're taking traffic that's on 2 down to 1. Traffic slows down through the work zone. They start slowing down, backing up, and now I've got rear end collisions at the queue, at the backup. Number 2 is intoxication, drunk driving, things like that. Now that Illinois has pot, I'm sure that's going to start jumping up also. And distractions, you guys have seen it. People today are constantly looking down at the crouch and stuff, looking at their phones, and not looking out what's going on in front of them. And when there's an accident, especially when it's 80,000 pounds, it causes a lot of damage. Livestock trailer, this was an incident over in Collinsville area. We had a flagger that was out there flagging. This truck here jackknifed and hit the flagger and hit and killed him. So it's not just the interstates. So the top picture right there, see, I mean, traffic doesn't back up. It takes less than 5 minutes for me to have a 2-mile backup on I-70 if traffic slows down. And now we'll get to the speed. I really need the video for this, or the audio. See if that works. Let's give it a shot. No. This was shot over in England. This tells you the difference between the speed. Basically, 5 miles an hour difference. 5 mile an hour difference. So 60 and 65 when they first started at the start, they hit the brakes. You lose half your speed in the last few minutes of braking. 5 mile an hour difference at the beginning. When he hits here, he's still hitting at 37 miles per hour. The other one with 5 mile an hour difference only hits at 3 miles an hour. And that's just basic physics when the friction and stuff on the road slowing down. And that's with cars. With semis and you got a heavy load and stuff behind you, you got a lot of different scenario. Some human factors. Driver's task. We can perceive more than 2 things per second. We can make a decision, 1 or 2 every second. We can take 1 to 120 actions per minute. We make at least 1 error every 2 minutes. We're involved in a hazardous situation every 2 hours. And we're on average 1 to 2 near collisions a month. And the nationwide average is you're going to be in an accident at least once every 10 years. Here is how the cities are ranked. Sioux Falls is the safest place to have an accident in the nation. Every 14.6 years, the citizens there in Sioux Falls has an accident. Illinois doesn't get into the ranking until number 43, and that's Rockford, Illinois, at 10.9, just above the nation's average. And it's no surprising, Chicago's down there at 7.6. The worst city in the nation is Washington, D.C. They get in an accident every 5.4 years, at least once every 5.4 years. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., like I have, you would completely understand why. When it is raining over there on the East Coast, they drive like the pavement's dry and everything else. It's nail the gas at the signal and slam on the brakes at the next one. What's the key to good traffic control? Uniformity. The goal is to have everything set up the same way so traffic knows how to respond regardless of what we're doing out there. We're also upgrading our devices, our standard markings, brighter and wider pavement markings. Something you guys probably don't notice, on the interstate, we used to have 4-inch centerline skips, and over the last 10 years, we've increased that to 6 inches. We're also doing that to the edge line. We also have different type of pavement markings we're putting out there. It's actually reflective underwater. So when it's raining, because I'm sure if you've noticed years past, when it's raining, that centerline marking kind of disappears, and the only thing you can see is that RPM lens. We've changed that. We've actually made the marking south. Now it's got different elements in it, so it reflects that light back so you can actually see the centerline and edge line markings now. Larger signs. The feds only require 36-inch minimum signs, except for on interstate. Illinois, we just go ahead and make them all minimum 48 inches. For one, not only is it more visible, but for two, why do you need 2 sets of signs to say the same thing? Why have that in your inventory? Higher types of channelizing devices, we're not using the small 18-inch cones anymore. Now we have a 3-foot tall drum. We also have barrier in place and your TMAs. Some examples of our work zones. Do you guys use crash cushions? Any and all? That TMA, truck mounted attenuator that's on the back, it's designed to stop a 80,000-pound semi without damaging the work area. There's a new thing that's being done over in England right now. It's over $400,000, but it looks like a section of guardrail you pull behind your truck, so the workers work behind it. It's not really cost inducive right now to be deploying those right now, but as new stuff is being deployed out there. Here's an example of our normal bridge project. As you can see, the barrier walls is deflected with reflectors. We have markings and stuff like that. So you have clear delineation channeling them through the work zone. And that TMA here is some instances of the TMA being hit on the roadways. These things are designed for a full frontal impact and to slow them down and stop them. It's when the motorist decides to make a last corrective action and try to turn away from it, that's when gravity takes over. And that's the reason why the semi there rolled over. Here's a normal collision, how they collapse like that. It slows you down, a little more gradual. These things are not designed to save property. The vehicles that hit them are destroyed. The TMA that's there is destroyed. But more times than not, everybody's walking away from it. This is not a cheap solution. I mean, you're talking a minimum of 15 grand for each one of these things. And you cannot replace parts on them. Once they've been hit, you gotta scrap them and replace them. Sorry for the small font here. Question was asked about the liability for us working out there, doing things correctly or incorrectly. These are the percentage of the lawsuits here in Illinois. Only 29% of the chances of a work zone accident going to court, zero money is going to be awarded to the plaintiff. Okay. Over $5 million is 8%. Okay. If there's an incident, and I understand you guys go out there and you try to get the job done right away. So it's going to take you longer to set up the signs than it is going to do the job. More times than not, you're probably going to go over with it, no problems. It's that one instance that happens, and an incident happens, where you're taking all the liability on your own shoulders. If you go to court, you're going to answer in front of a judge, why didn't you put that sign out? Okay. When you go to court, the first person they're going to go after is us. Out there working, they're going to go after you working, saying, why didn't you do it? Then they're going to go after your company, because the company is where the money's at. But they're going to find blame with you first. So improve the safeties, increase the distances. We've done that over the years. We have longer advance warning, longer tapers. And as you guys have seen up on our interstates, we have 3 to 5 miles of signs telling people to move from one lane to another. And if you've ever been on the interstate, people do not move over until they see that last arrow board in the taper. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to take all that traffic and put it to one lane 5 miles out. Okay. Again, the state's kicking around the idea. I don't know if you guys have heard about the zipper merge. They're trying to kick that idea where they're trying to tell people when to move from one lane to another. I don't think it's a good idea. Personally, telling people to move when we already have all of this out there and you're just adding it to our already standard. You're going to overload them. Okay. Normal interstate or lane closure on a 2-lane roadway. Okay. Our long-term projects is the one thing I got to worry about. Something we put out in January, February, April, May comes around, trees started blooming. That sign is no longer seen. It's got tree limbs and stuff in front of it. Every tree hugger out in the world is not going to allow me to cut that tree down. I'm going to have to go ahead and move that sign. Also be careful if you guys do use message boards, make sure it's visible. It's not only one thing to have it out there, to make sure it's visible to traffic. And your flagger signs needs to be in advance of the flagger, not at the flagger. Pay attention to some detail. Now, the problem with this sign is everybody going by this will see that sign and they'll laugh at you about it, but they will recognize it. If that sign is upright, you'll have people come up all the way to the flagger sign and yell at you saying it'd be helpful if you had some signs out here, even though they just drove through 3 of them. Don't use a Sharpie or a magic marker and make up your own sign. When possible, you need to work on the same side of the street at all times. Okay, keep everything, all the equipment and everything on one side. Scott's Law is the main reason. Scott's Law says on interstate you're supposed to slow down and move over to the other lane. If your position on the equipment stuff is on one side of the road and you're standing on the other side, by law, traffic's supposed to slow down and move over to you. Don't put yourself at risk. Stay on the same side of the road as your truck. Okay, stay on the same side. This isn't on an interstate and he's going backwards. I've seen this as a utility company out there working. Flag on the right side of traffic, not the left. Your flaggers need to wear some kind of, the MUTC says you need to wear a class 2 vest when you're out there flagging for minimums. Class 3 garments at night. The difference between the classes is the number of square inches of silver that's on that vest. A class 1 just has it up and down. The class 2 has addition around the belly. And the class 3 has sleeves with a band around it. Most of the times not, if you guys are out there flagging, you're going to have your signs out. Okay? It's not going to be a short-term, less than 15-minute operation. It's going to usually be longer than that, so you're going to have your signs out there working. Just a note, flaggers, the majority of the flaggers that are killed in our work zones are not killed by the motorists driving by. Runovers and backups, 48% of the time. Collision between vehicles and mobile equipment, 14% of the time. And caught between or struck by construction equipment and other objects, another 14% of the time. Okay. 72% of the time you're going to be hit by your coworker and not the motorist. Here's an example of our vests. These lime green vests are great, and there's a big push on them. I personally like the orange ones better, especially here in Illinois during the fall time. You're standing out there behind the trees that are changing colors and you kind of blend in. But I will note, these vests are a lot more visible if you're standing in the sun. I'm not asking you to move a quarter mile down the road because you've got a lot of tree coverage and a lot of shade in it. But as you can see, it's about 5-10 feet. She stands in there and the visibility is enhanced a lot. Good example of the flagging. The only thing is keep your eye on traffic. It doesn't take very long for someone to creep up on you. Next thing you know, you got the bumper right there next to you. Good safe location for a flagger. Not ideal though, because you're kind of blending in. And if you do have a flagger, you need a body. And I'm here to warn you today, I have a camera. And if you wear something silly like this, you're probably going to make my next class. Excavations has become a big thing. You guys do more of what, trenching and things like and directional boring. So you're probably not doing too much excavation. But in construction projects, we do a lot of excavation. We got to try to keep traffic out of there. Now, a car runs off into this, probably no big deal. On this instance like this, I'm worried about motorcycles running off. Another instance, and there is a method to madness. I'm not sure if you guys realize this, but there is a reason why the slants go this direction. You want to slant it down to which side you want traffic to travel. So all these are slanted down towards the traffic. And then we get the far extreme, over 6 feet. So not only am I worried about motorcyclists, I'm worried about everybody else running off that and causing some serious damage. Temporary concrete barrier. A lot of people like to use it and think it's a save-all. Safety. Here's an instance where the concrete got hit. This was done by a carnival trailer. As you can see, it is deflected. It is designed to deflect up to 2 feet. Here's this truck. He hit it so hard, he broke away the connecting pins. And when the connecting pins are broke, the barrier shifts. The truck was the previous slide. This is his trailer. So is temporary concrete barrier the ultimate protector? Here's some videos of some concrete barrier as it's being tested. This is, everything has to be crash tested by the feds. This is a section of barrier wall that's been hit at 62 mile an hour at a 25-degree angle with a half-ton pickup truck. And as you can see how far it moves when that truck hits it. Like I said, it is designed to move up to 2 feet. Worst case scenario, higher impact, it will move up to 10 feet. Most of our lanes that we have out there are only 12 foot wide, so basically it will deflect the whole width of that whole lane. Now that was section there was not pinned to the road. It did not have the anchoring pins down in the roadway itself. This section of barrier walls, you can see the difference. This section of barrier wall is pinned to the road. As you can see, it basically did not move. So when I see things like this, I'm serious concerned, not for basically your guys' safety. You put a barrier wall out there, it doesn't take very long for somebody to clip that barrier wall, and now you have that 2-ton piece of concrete falling on top of you down that hole. Don't sit on temporary concrete barrier, because like I said, when it gets hit, it moves. Now just a warning, do you guys have message boards that you guys use on your jobs any? If you guys do get to that, you guys start to use message boards, I want you to be, just warning here today, change the default password in those things. Because most of these message boards that we have out these days have Bluetooth capabilities, and we have some pretty smart kids out there. And they're going around hacking into the system and changing your messages. This is one of my favorites. Also, there is some pretty good kids out there. This is, I would call the barrel monster. This was done down in Florida. Some college kid in the middle of the night, didn't have much studying to do or something, went out there, got some drums, cut it up, and made this thing. Contractor didn't think it was funny. They took him to court and made him pay for the damages and made him pay for new drums. Me personally, I would have given him a job. Because I think this would work better than an air board. Who needs lights? Just one of my last slides. Here at the department and all engineers and stuff, we try to over-design things. So I've got a picture here of a busy intersection over in Asia. Just to give you an example of what's going on over there. Notice we got buses, cars, pedestrians, motorcycles. There is not one sign. There is no traffic signals. There is no pavement markings. And you will notice during the whole 5 minutes of this video, there is not one incident. There are some close ones, but not one happens. They did a study, they was over in England. They had a major intersection where they were having multiple fatalities and deaths and stuff at this one intersection. And like normal departments and government does, we dump a lot of money and push a lot of stuff into it. More signs, more signing and stuff like that, and additional traffic signals and striping and stuff like that. And each year they did some more safety improvements to this intersection. Until one year they finally said enough, there's nothing further engineering reasons we can do to improve this intersection. So they went back to the intersection and stripped everything away. Same thing. They hadn't had an incident in over 5 years. I want to thank you for your time. That is all I have for the presentation, unless there is any questions. Well, thanks guys, and be safe out there.